Have you ever engaged in a serious debate over which is better, Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings? Have you ever played Smash or Pass using only characters from Star Wars and Marvel movies? If you answered yes to any of these questions, we have the podcast for you. Listen to The Steam Gentlemen, the podcast where an expert panel convenes to ask the questions about pop culture and social commentary that other podcasts are afraid to ask. Listen to The Steam Gentlemen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Ladies and gentlemen, Wrestling Fans International Association is back. That's right, the premier fan club association of the 1970s and 1980s has been revived and is back in business. Join today. It's free at thewfia.org. That's thewfia.org. You can also join us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/WFIA 1969. Welcome, everybody, to Chronicles by Fleisch 1998. I'm your host, Brad Drake, and this is Extreme Championship Wrestling. Yes, everybody, it has been a while. I have been extremely busy with work. Well, I took a week or so off for Christmas. And then I got extremely busy with work. We've been dealing with extreme cold temperatures and a whole bunch of other sorts of problems. And it is taking up a lot of my time, and I'm working an extreme, pun intended, amount of hours. So, I did discover the 1998 mod by Fleisch, and I've been playing around with it for about a month or so, and playing ECW when I can. And not necessarily ECW, but playing this mod, playing TEW while I can. And I've had some fun with this mod and had some fun with ECW. First, I ran a pretty cool NWA Florida save, doing an NWA thing. I've always been a sucker for the NWA, especially back then. I remember when that whole revival occurred, and I was actually involved with the one in the Midwest, NWA Midwest, in the early 2000s. So that was fun to play, and then I started playing around with ECW. I was a huge ECW fan when I was in high school. I discovered ECW in 1997 through the wrestling magazines, and then I became a fan. And then my brother became a fan, and then we became big-time fans. We used to record all the shows on late-night television, and then we would also go to all of the local shows here in suburban Chicago when ECW would come. I think there was about 4 or 5 shows total, and we went to all of them. The very first one we ever went to, the Dudley Boys, almost started a riot, and all the fans picked up their chairs and started slamming them on the ground. My brother and I quickly made our way to the exit, just in case a riot erupted. But ECW will always have special memories for me because it was the Revolution promotion, and it was fun, and there was nothing else around like it. I watch it now, and it's a little scary knowing what we know about CTE and everything else, and it's just not quite as good as I remember it being, but it's still fun nonetheless, and it's been fun playing it. So, why don't you step on inside here and let me show you a little bit of what's been going on with our save. I have been trying to keep this save historically accurate as much as possible. That's not always the easiest or likely thing to do with TEW 2020, but I enjoy doing it. One thing I did do, I always liked the pit bulls, right? So I brought back the pit bulls, made sure to sign up Wolf and Durante, and believe it or not, I signed Gary Hart and made Gary Hart their manager. I brought back Mustafa Saeed, who would come back for a run in 1999 with ECW, before then having his major feud, both in real life and in the ring, with New Jack. So that's one thing I did there. Candido and Storm in my save. I never cared for that angle where they were the tag team champions, but they were fighting each other and hated each other. I thought there were a lot of other good teams in ECW that deserved the title, deserved the tag team title. I thought it was kind of a waste of a title reign. But I understand what they were doing. It was a different thing for Heyman to try, and it worked. I give him credit for it, but I never really cared for it. So I kind of kept them as a unified team. They've recently lost the title to the Pitbulls here. We'll make that change. And pretty soon they're going to split, and there's going to be a feud. As far as television goes, we tape Hardcore TV 2 weeks in a row. Now, the formula I use for it is I use 2 serious matches, 10-minute match, 12-minute match, main, sub-main. The rest are squash matches. For those of you that have been following my shows for long enough, you know that I enjoy squash matches. And squash matches would even work today in 2024. They definitely would have worked in 1998. From what I remember watching Hardcore TV, it was on channel 26 here in Chicago. Late night, like a midnight. It was about a midnight time slot, and I remember Music City Wrestling and Windy City Wrestling were on about the same time. So it was like 3 wrestling shows in a row on Saturday nights, and I would record them. And Hardcore TV was usually like 2 matches. The rest was promos. They would show where they were going on, what arenas they were going to be in next, where their tour was going to next. And it really wasn't much of a show. But in all fairness, with as violent and out of control as ECW was in 1998, it was a little difficult to do so. So they had to show these matches the way they did on the show. Okay, so we do Hardcore TV every other week. We run a tour. All right, and I've recently here opened up a 4th block. Now, for those of you that have been following my shows long enough, you know how I love running blocks for tours. And you can see here, we do each region in the United States. That's how we break it down over a 3-week period. We do each region. So the first 2 blocks are totally different matches from each other. Now when we go down to the 3rd and 4th block, we start merging matches and mixing things up. So the wrestlers are still doing their feuds and doing their thing with each other. They're in a different area 3 nights a week. But the crowd is going to see different matches. This is pretty darn realistic WWF, WCW, and other promotions ran their tours. ECW, if you look up their tours, there's sometimes a mixture of matches, but it's a mess. Like, they have everybody wrestling everybody all the time, all over the place. So it's very confusing. So we're at about 6 months into the save, and what we've had constantly is hitting all 9 regions in the continental U.S. Now we're going to move into Canada, and I have not gotten there yet. We're going to move into Canada. There's a guy. He's a YouTuber. He's got a show, does his thing on Twitch. He's also become a friend of mine online. His name is Richard Wright. He's helped me do some edits with the Supermod, with the obviously 1987 Supermod. And Richard's a good guy. And Richard has a formula for live events where he does cheap tickets. Now, our merchandise is cranked up high enough where this actually benefited our pocketbook by doing cheap tickets and then selling the merchandise. Now, for Canada, since our popularity isn't very high in Canada yet, I went ahead and made the tickets very cheap. So we'll see how that works out in Canada. All right. Now, let's take a look at the save itself here, everybody. Obviously, I have enhancement talent here. In fact, the first several guys outside of Al Snow are enhancement talents. And like I said, I've tried keeping this roster as realistic as possible, but sometimes I just can't help myself. Ha ha! You gotta like this one. I remember being a 16-year-old ECW fan, and I would say all the time, boy, they need to sign Doink the Clown. They could make him Doink the effing Clown. He could be the whole effing circus. Those of you that were familiar with ECW remember there's this whole effing thing with the new effing show with Jerry Lynn, stuff like that. So here we go, everybody. I did it. We have Doink the effing Clown. He hasn't gotten in too much trouble yet. Got 31 matches for him so far since he signed with us in January, and I dig it. He's got a great record. I built him up to have some World Heavyweight title matches, and he's taken some losses from the title matches, and that's fine. But he's doing really well on the tours and everything else. We're using him the way a 41-year-old Matt Bourne should be used. Trying to see if there's any other surprises in here. Told you about Gary Hart. Gary Hart has been a great mix with the Pitbulls. They have great chemistry together. It's been really good having him with the Pitbulls. Of course, he's led the Pitbulls to the World Tag Team title. Now, we are dealing with Gary Hart. Will Gary Hart eventually turn on the Pitbulls? Stay tuned, everybody. Who else do we got here that might surprise you a little bit? Really don't think there's anybody that's going to surprise you. We have the roster pretty much the way it is. I've kept Furnace and LaFon around. I was a big fan of them as a tag team, and I thought they fit into ECW pretty well. So we're going to keep them around. They are in a feud right now with the Pitbulls for the tag team title. I brought back Mustafa Saeed. I think I told you about that. Reformed the Gangsters about a year early. We've signed Masato Tanaka. I've got him being managed by Gary Hart, and that's working out pretty well. Of course, I signed Mike Awesome. He's being managed by Jeff Jones. Some of these wrestlers are here a little bit earlier than they normally would, but they are here. And this is working out really well. This has been a fun save to do. Our backstage and fire environment is really good. We've had very minor drug problems and stuff like that so far. That could change at any minute. You never know. Take a look at our titles. I never cared for the late 90s looking ECW title belts. I thought they were kind of cheesy looking. I dug their earlier belts, so I went back to the earlier belts. Shane Douglas is the World Heavyweight Champion. He's been the champion since this November, so he's got himself a good 8-month reign going. The Pitbulls have won the tag team title about a month ago. They're doing very well as the tag team champions. Rob Van Dam is the World Television Champion. In real life, I think he captured the title in about August, but in our game, I had him win it directly from Taz and skipped over Bam Bam Bigelow. I never quite understood how you wanted a wrestler that was once your primary champion to then become your secondary champion. Just never made much sense to me, so I try to avoid that in saves. All right, let's take a look at our merchandise, which is doing very well. We're at comprehensive, and that's the setting in the game. I have done edits, of course. I've edited venues, brought in wrestlers from previous mods that I have. And of course, I had to do some edits to the wrestlers themselves because a lot of these wrestlers were criminally underrated. So we continue to cruise along here, 4% a week. So we will be up to the next level pretty soon. And we're going to start making money hand over fist. All right, we are making money. We made $200,000 last month in the game. We're making a ton of money. Our ticket sales are good, especially with that little trick that I learned from Richard. You can see our incline here in ticket sales and merchandise. Of course, that also goes along with a popularity gain, but the merchandise gain is definitely a product of doing the cheaper ticket sales. So if you don't do that in your save, do it. All right. Trying to see if there's anything else I needed to show you here. I think that's about it. We don't have a figurehead. I did turn injuries off because with this product, there's just way too many injuries. So I did turn them off. And, people don't like it too bad, but that's the way I'm playing it. And this save has been a lot of fun. I enjoy doing tours, as you know. I enjoy that level of detail, and I'm enjoying doing that with the ECW save here. So our tours continue, and we'll take a look at our events. All the real ECW events are in the game for 1998. I've been playing them as such. I just made some changes to try to get us a pay-per-view, at least one per month. I don't have a problem with doing a big event, but I only do one pay-per-view a month. So I'm going to have to come up with one for July here. And I actually had programmed in the real ECW tour. That's why you see tour dates off and stuff like that. We'll make some changes. So I will have to add some more pay-per-views in there. We have some options here at the bottom. We'll just bring one of them in early. that kind of thing. So, what was pretty interesting was when we hit June in this game, Request TV, who was our pay-per-view provider, went out of business. And in real life, they went out of business at the end of June, but that's okay. And I signed a new deal with a different pay-per-view provider, and they actually want 12 pay-per-views a year. So we've gone that route. So I think that's about it, everybody, for this one. I, of course, will be back and show you. Here's our show history. We're doing real well. Keep moving around the country. I will actually record a show next, and I don't know how long we'll do these until we'll go back to WWF. But those of you that know me know that I get kind of bored and want to change things up a little bit and do some different shows. So that's why we're doing ECW here, everybody. Oh, we have a talent point we can spend. I forget which one I did. I think I went Silver Tongue for Paul Heyman. So his leadership's high, stuff like that. But you can see creativity and stuff like that is low. So we'll go ahead and hit creativity with one and make the save. All right. That's going to do it, everybody, for this one. So for those of you that are new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button and drop me a message below. Let me know what you think of the show and what you think of our channel. For those of you looking for the Supermod, the 1987 Supermod, you can find it over on Patreon, patreon.com/PowerCast Network. It's just $5, everybody. It gives you access to the Supermod, gives you access to all of our shows early and ad-free, gives you access to all of our spreadsheets and so much more, everybody. Check it out today, patreon.com/PowerCast Network. Don't forget, you can become a member for free of Wrestling Fans International Association. Head on over to thewfia.org today and sign up. It's free, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I will see you next time.